All right, cool. So yeah, it's good to be back in Austin for Top Builder Season 2. And yeah, I'm Christian, or Calvadev, if you've ever seen me on Nostr. And today I'm going to be talking about Shopstr, a permissionless marketplace for Bitcoin commerce. So to start, picture this. You're a small merchant who just wants to sell their wares. They've been thinking of a way to start their own little business, and they've come up with something like this. So you have access to suppliers and everything to be able to build, to make a whipped tallow balm. So this is basically just like a tallow cream that you can apply on your skin. And very simple, just simply 3 ingredients, nothing too harmful, nothing crazy. And you're just trying to find the best way to be able to put it out there, get some money, start building up the business. And you have a bunch of options: Facebook Marketplace, eBay, Etsy, Shopify, so on and so forth, and also different payment processors: PayPal, Shopify, Zapprite, all these things. And you decide to just go with Etsy. And things are good for a time. Things are selling, things are picking up. But then out of the blue, you see that there's a change in the terms of service. And Etsy sends you an email saying, you have been making a medical claim that this is deeply moisturizing, nourishing, and for sensitive skin. So this can actually be dangerous for consumers. And you're here minding your own business, just literally simply selling a simple product, and your Etsy shop gets shut down. You're like, okay, now I can maybe set up a Shopify and go through the same process. And you realize, by the whims of any centralized entity, you're always going to get banned. And maybe even at the extreme, you're interacting with someone in Africa or somewhere in Latin America or somewhere with sanctions where companies like PayPal and all these entities do not allow for the processing of payments to these individuals. And your PayPal gets shut down. That awful message you get where your issue has an account, you have to contact us for help. And specifically on the payment processing side, we as Bitcoiners obviously know that Visa, PayPal, Stripe, all these services, you're dealing with third-party intermediaries, and that becomes an issue whenever you're trying to just simply send money over to someone over the internet. There's nothing wrong with some, for example, on Nostr, there's a woman who sells rugs in Iran. So I'm technically legally not allowed to be able to purchase that. I can't use PayPal, can't use Visa, can't use Stripe. She's just restricted from being able to access this open monetary network of individuals who are just trying to survive and trying to do their own thing, build their own businesses. And Bitcoin really provides the ability to do that. And what Shopstr helps provide is actually the ability to do so without restriction, transact online without restriction, and shop freely. And actually, the example that I provided with the tallow cream was actually a real merchant who had their Etsy shop shut down simply because they apparently made a medical claim that it was dangerous and dangerous to consumers. And they went out of their way to thank Shopstr for being able to give them an ability to be able to control their products, control their identity, not be shut down. And obviously using Bitcoin, even if we were to somehow censor them, which we can't restrict their distribution on the relays due to Nostr, which I'll get into in a moment. But they just can continuously process payments and be able to own their actual, own their product, own their store. And again, this was a Brazilian artist who has also been listing on Shopstr, and they have had issues with Mercado Libre, how they just have a crazy algorithm that doesn't allow them to be discovered, even though they're just there's a cool artist with a lot of really interesting stuff. They've had issues processing payments and having to deal with the issues of transacting just all over the world, especially with shipment and all that stuff. And yeah, they've just said Shopstr is the absolute easiest way to be able to set up for them because they just have no other options. They need to be able to interact in a completely parallel, separate system. And just outside of censorship and this in general, with the native integration into social media, Vitor here, who's one of the lead developers for Amethyst, he was one of our first merchants who ever sold anything on Shopstr, and he made 800,000 sats just by selling his phone, back when 800,000 wasn't close to 100K. But now we have an ability to actually directly transact and buy things with Bitcoin without having to go through some gift card processor or something like that. That's the main thing here, is just being able to actually create real circular economies and support the people that are interacting and transacting on the Bitcoin network. Yeah, so kind of comparing and looking more the broad marketplace landscape. So you have obviously your traditional sellers or platforms to sell. So Amazon, eBay, they're cumbersome more so in the sense that you have to go through a lot of KYC and a lot of processing to be able to get set up and start listing a book. You have to sell your soul just to be able to transact with someone on the internet. And they're obviously siloed because you have to create an account and they capture your audience, they capture the distribution, and at any moment they can just take it away from you. Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist go in a similar boat. A little more convenient in the fact that you just create an account and are able to list things. Facebook Marketplace has the advantage of not needing to process payments. And that was the initial inspiration for, like the initial thing we took for Shopstr was being able to make it easy to just like list something, as simple as Facebook Marketplace, but being able to receive payment immediately and natively. And then we come to things that we're a little bit more in favor of. So like Silk Road, like shout out Ross for being freed and like now he's out here, but there was some serious technical issues with processing like transactions over the Silk Road. Primarily the fact that Ross was the primary, or one of the primary people who actually had access to the servers that could control and like host all the content that was on there. So even though, yes, he has a more aligned ideal to us, it's actually still not beneficial because people who don't agree with it are seeing things that they want to see, or at some point he could change his mind, and we're at the whims of the person controlling it. And then we have something like OpenBazaar. This was a more recent attempt at a decentralized marketplace. I think they eventually transitioned to Ethereum after like focusing on Bitcoin, but the reason they failed, like they were permissionless, yes, in the fact that you could run your own client, access like the network, be able to transact. But the issue that they ran into was the fact that they focused on building a desktop client. And majority of e-commerce today is actually like close to 90% of e-commerce today is done on mobile phones. And so you need at least, at the minimum, a browser application to be able to access and transact. And then we have things like BTC Pay Server. They're quite good solutions, and it's an amazing thing because it's permissionless. The only issue that arises is the fact that you don't really get as much discovery. Like you are running it yourself, typically on your own website, hosting things on your own. So you have to like push it yourself, and like you don't get the native distribution that you could get on something like Shopstr. So yeah, the thing that Shopstr really provides is the fact that we're bringing all of these three foundational technologies together. Primarily Bitcoin and Lightning. So that's like the backbone of exactly how we're transacting. It's like the primary way that we're going to be transacting over the internet, especially like on smaller payments. And on top of that, I think primarily Cashew or eCash in general is one of the most powerful things that we can do. One, because we have anonymized payments, like we're able to like transact without having like say you have a custodial solution for your wallet. They're able to just see exactly like what's going in and out. They can like probably be able to determine exactly what flows of money are going in and out for, and like exactly what you're purchasing. And eCash allows to abstract that information and hide it. And the other thing that I really like about it is it basically makes sending money as easy as sending a text. Like it's literally just a string of text that you can just send to someone, and you're immediately able to hold it and claim it. And it allows you to just have almost automatic onboarding. Even your grandma could use it because they might not understand it, but they can actually like still text that money to someone, and like you're actually transferring value. And then Nostr, as I mentioned before, I don't really see Nostr as a social media protocol. I see it as a social infrastructure protocol. Like the social nature of it adds a lot of really interesting benefits. But the primary thing is that like going back on like the Silk Road point a little bit, the fact that it's distributed in nature and that you don't have to actually run anything yourself, you just control your identity, that's an incredibly powerful thing, that the identity is not tied to any infrastructure because it's portable, you can take it to any application, you can connect to any relays you want, any cash mints, any payment servers, so you just have full autonomy as an individual to be able to just, like, do whatever you want on it. And as a business owner, you're actually able to run your own infrastructure that you can comply to whatever you need to, while still giving your users the optionality to be able to be free and truly be free. I like to call that compliant non-compliance. And I'm going to get to a little bit of exactly how Shopstr works. So there's just be a quick little video demo. The Wi-Fi here is a bit spotty, so I didn't want to do it live because it might not have gone through properly. So this is what happens when you land on Shopstr. Just a landing page here. So it just goes through exactly how you can do things. When you're here, you can browse all the products and see everything. To sign in, you have a few options: extension, bunker, and NSEC. In this computer, I didn't have my NSEC set up, so I just copy and pasting it from some random thing that I generated. And you enter an encryption passphrase in order to like encrypt it locally in the browser, so there's a little bit more security whenever you're signing events on Shopstr. Whenever we get into the process of wanting to list something, you can add a listing, and you have a few options, description, all this stuff. And we also support a bunch of, I think, 160 currencies. And we do like the automatic conversion into Bitcoin for you. And I had previously listed this book item in order to for this little demo. On the buyer side, if you're just new to Nostr in general, you can just create a new account, and it'll just generate keys for you. You can save it, enter an encryption passphrase again, and then you can find and browse for whatever products and services that you want to purchase. And you come here, pay with Lightning. You can input an online order, input all your contact information that's necessary in order to deliver it. and then process the payment. This is also WebLM compatible, so if you have an Albi extension, or even like if you're using Fedi, if it's installed there as a mod, you're able to purchase it natively with the wallet there. And yeah, the purchase is successful, and you'll receive a DM. The buyer will receive a DM containing the receipt of the payment that was processed. The merchant will then get a DM containing the cashew token that was actually used for payment, as long as the final delivery mechanism that's required. So yeah, you can message the merchant, the buyer after, and as the merchant, I want to be able to redeem or receive my tokens, and I can actually receive directly into the native Shopstr wallet that's built in here. And this actually acts as a fully usable like Lightning wallet that's like fully that runs on Cashew. So you're just very easily able to pay, receive, and transact however you like. And then you can send the shipping info, all this confirmation. And finally, whenever you're finalizing the order, you're able to just like leave a review. And this like gets actually published to Nostr itself. So like even if the merchant decides not to use it, the reputation still gets carried over. So people are still able to view and see exactly the previous purchases that you've made and all that stuff. Yeah. So what exactly does like, again, going into what Shopstr like provides, what makes it like the power that it can bring to small merchants especially. It's obviously convenient and simple to set up. You literally simply need two clicks in order to just sign up and create a Nostr account and get started. You don't need a Bitcoin wallet to start off at all. You don't need to have any any payment infrastructure, any hosting infrastructure. You just like post your product and you're good to go. It's just like broadcast to whatever relays you have set up or some defaults we have, and then we process your payments using the cashew mints that are there. And it's obviously low maintenance. Like there's not much you have to really be tailoring. You don't have to be constantly like managing all this like product information, all this stuff. Like we handle that for you, make it very easy for you also to get discovered. And especially since it's like natively integrated into a few other social clients like Amethyst and Coracle, you're able to view and browse a bunch of product listings and stuff natively in a social feed and still be able to check out on Shopstr itself. Yeah, and probably the biggest thing that we were able to accomplish during Top Builder was making it self-hostable. So you're actually able to install your own client of Shopstr on Umbrel Start 9, and obviously it's open source. So like the really powerful thing about this is that now you don't have to rely on DNS, you don't have to rely on these cumbersome internet technologies that are actually like centralizing points that we use currently in the Bitcoin ecosystem, and you're able to just like, yeah, completely permissionlessly be able to run the infrastructure and be able to view and see, interact with whatever products you want to. And obviously it's open source, so anyone's able to fork it, modify it how they like, and just interact in that way. And actually to date, there's been around like 50 people who are running instances of their own Shopstr front end. So they're able to just like natively just be able to browse and transact without my permission. Yeah, and then yeah. And it also has some extra privacy features built into it. So we also have a Tor instance. So going full Silk Road, you can access it via Tor, just natively route everything over Tor, be anonymous in that way. The eCache thing makes it really nice because again, as I mentioned, you're able to obfuscate a bit of the transaction information that you're processing. And also, cool thing now is we have the option of actually setting your payment preference. So you can set your payment preference to Cashew. So you'll just receive a DM containing the payment, a little bit more of a manual process. Or you can actually set your payment preference to your Lightning address, your Nostr profile Lightning address. So if someone pays you, it'll actually convert it to an eCash token, in flight, swap it for Lightning, and you're able to receive it directly into your Lightning address, and you'll just get a message saying, check your Lightning address, you received the payment. And then with data obfuscation, previously, especially last year, we were using, this is generally a problem with Nostr, is the fact that it's very leaky with terms of metadata. And one of the things we did to mitigate, because especially every transaction has a lot of information tied to it, so it's very hard to like kind of capture it all and like have a full complete picture of exactly what happened without leaking something. And we implemented the ability to now have GIF-wrapped content whenever you're messaging and processing payment. So the only thing that anyone sees is that you received a DM from some random person, and it could just be a real DM. It could just be a normal DM from a social client or anything else. It looks like every other DM that's processed, and you don't see any other information other than that. The only people who can actually view the transaction are you and the merchant. Yeah, so some of the biggest takeaways that I've had, like especially building it out over the last year, it's like I like this line from Chris Dixon. It's like, your take rate is my opportunity. This is like a sort of paraphrasing Jeff Bezos. He's like, your operating cost is my opportunity. So basically, now that we have the ability to transact like with small payments and like micropayments, you're actually able to drive the cost of infrastructure and the cost of running things down to its bare bones. And like you literally just have like whatever it costs to operate is like what you actually have to pay in order to run things. and that returns a lot of the value back to the merchants who are able to like use that money to either reinvest in their small business or just process things that way. And then flexible defaults. So we have one nice thing that actually allows us to still earn money while not even having to like have people process through Shopstr.store or a Tor instance is the fact that we have default donation rates that are adjustable. So if you're processing a payment, the merchant themselves could like set like, by default we have 2.1% on every transaction, but the merchant can like increase it or decrease it. And actually we've seen most merchants have actually increased it like up to like 5 or 10%. So it incentivizes them to just like, yeah, give back to development, provide support for like the platform that they're using that's actually helping them. And most people just like don't even change. And like even if you're running an instance on your Start9 or Umbrel, any of these things, you're able, where like Shopstr itself is still able to receive payment and earn money, even though like they're running it themselves. So it's a really powerful thing that we've found. And as I mentioned before, the distributed infrastructure is like incredibly powerful because now, if, for example, because probably the biggest thing that everyone thinks when they hear something like a permissionless marketplace is like, what about the drugs? What about the murders for hire? What about all this stuff? And it's like, yeah, like it's definitely a big problem. We want to be able to mitigate that without compromising on our users' rights and their freedoms to be able to transact. And Nostr really provides the ability to like now, like the thing that we're like probably going to lean into is we're going to be running our own relay, and we'll be able to actually provide ways of just having reports and censoring. So like the Shopstr relay itself will be censoring, moderating all this content, but because of the fact that users are independently able to manage and select their own relays, their own infrastructure, they can just completely avoid using it and then just be on their own system. And like, it's up to them to be able to decide whether or not what they're interacting with is like good for them or not, and they have full control over like their view of the marketplace world. And then also the social graph is very, very powerful when it comes to especially marketplaces. Like I'm interacting with someone online, I'm not gonna want to buy anything from them because I have no idea who they are, especially in the Bitcoin space, they're a NIM, like I have no trust. But now that we have something like Nostr, like with your identity and reputation closely tied to an individual that's like, I guess, sort of public, even if your identity isn't truly known, you're able to actually gain some reputation natively within the system. And it benefits you to actually be altruistic and be true, like not scam people, because like, yeah, if you get bigger reputation, you can actually just actually start focusing on transacting like in an honest way. As I like this story of like, there's this like mafia boss who like in New Jersey, I believe, who was like operating his a pizza business as a side hustle. And like eventually they realized the pizza business is so profitable, I don't need to be a mafia boss anymore. I can just run my honest business and just like work like that. So it's like these like social structures natively integrated into something like Nostr really allow for mitigation of risk. And they provide that bootstrap trust that doesn't necessarily require like escrow systems, like at least from the get-go. And yeah, just to talk about a little bit from last year. So yeah, we made $5 million last year, right? No. That's in sats, right? Okay, so we did not make $5 million. That's a sad denominated price. But as you see, it's actually been gradually increasing, just straight line up. It's been really nice to actually be consistent in sales. So we've actually, in the last year, have on our public service that we've aggregated, so this is 100% sure, we've sold around 5 million sats worth of, we've had 5 million sats worth of volume on Shopstr. On the private instances, we can estimate that we've had roughly like 3 million or so just from like donation fees. Like we can like, just assuming the default 2.1%, that's what like about how much we've processed. And in total, since launch, which was around like September of 2023, when it was very, very early and very ugly and very unusable, we've processed around like 10 million sats worth of transactions. So it's been really, really cool to see people like getting increased interest in using this type of thing. And we've also had around like over 2,000 listings posted on the site on Nostr. We've had around 1,000 plus, around 1,800 plus unique signups to Shopstr. And then like about every day, there's at least 250 unique people visiting like constantly. So like they're just, yeah, people are like always constantly checking and seeing like exactly what it is they can buy. And really the thing that is that has changed from the mindset is not necessarily like, because before we were worried that like, oh, people aren't gonna want to spend their Bitcoin, they're not going to want to use it. But I don't think that's necessarily true. It's just finding the right products that people actually value to actually give up and use their Bitcoin for. So it's like the biggest things that we've seen sold are like usually consumable goods that are more so actually beneficial for your health like immediately. So like the tallow cream, tallow soap, beef jerky, like nice peanut butter, homemade peanut butter like snacks. and things of that nature. So like we've seen an increased interest in like being able to use this and just not having to go through traditional payment systems and all that stuff in the fiat world. And yeah, like it's not too much transaction volume, or at least like relatively compared to like a lot of the big businesses, but it's honest work, especially working as a solo developer. Like it's a lot of hassle to be able to have to like manage building out new product features, manage like any bugs that are actually being happening, manage all the customer support, and then manage any marketing, which there's barely any. Like most of the stuff has all come organically from people either just finding the site because someone recommended it, which has also been really great to see. People are like kind of acting as my marketing department because like they find value in it, and they like actually go out of their way to like kind of support and show that this is actually something very beneficial for themselves, and that everyone can benefit from it, even if you're just a consumer yourself. Yeah, so these two numbers, so 3.5 to 8 million, this is roughly the estimated transaction volume over Lightning, specifically for commerce. This was in 2023 estimated, and the 35.3 billion was this last year, just specifically focusing on Stripe. This is the amount of fees that people could have saved by using the Lightning Network. And this is generally what we think. This is like these are the key things that we see as that are going to drive further adoption of using Bitcoin as money, because that's truly like the fundamental thing that we need to actually change, and the mindset we need to fix. Making it as easy as possible for people to use Bitcoin as money, and then just, and again, making it as easy as possible for people to receive money. And this is generally the greater market opportunity that we can increase, and this is just gradually increasing over time. Like we're going to see more and more people onboarding and moving on to like, maybe not necessarily fully Bitcoin standard businesses, but they're going to be wanting to accept Bitcoin payment, wanting to be a part of the system and being integrated with this parallel network. Yeah, so the team, it's basically just me working full time. I'm coming off of an OpenSats grant, so it's like my last month is next month. So yeah, it's been really great to be able to like have the opportunity to work full time. Before I was in big tech, and it was like I was working 2 jobs at the same time, so I was like just stacking sats as much as possible. And that was just a soul drain. Like I'm just doing absolutely nothing that's beneficial for anyone. It's just like, yeah, I worked at Salesforce, and like one of the things that I like to say is like my biggest economic indicator is like once Salesforce starts laying off people, now I know we're hitting the bottom, because like that company is so inefficient, and it's just so great to be able to see like people find, at least some organization, to find value in the work that I'm doing and be able to like further it and like be nimble, be able to like just be able to be nimble, be able to like be free and creative in exactly how I want to help and contribute to the Bitcoin system. And then Welev here, he's a developer who actually joined to help as a participant in the Summer of Bitcoin program. And he actually, after finishing his project, which was the kind of like adding like the wallet backend, he was actually just started volunteering and helping out and just like kind of guiding product development. So it's just been great. Like I haven't been paying him, and he's just been super supportive, and just like, yeah, we have calls every week, and just like deciding on the future of exactly where we want to see Shopstr go. Yeah, and what's to come. So yeah, a little bit, I was gonna show ShopSwapper today, but it's not quite ready. I just need to have login. But basically, this is one of the things that I think is gonna be really cool especially for existing merchants who like use Shopify or things like that. So basically, you just export your product data, you upload it onto ShopSwapper, and you immediately publish it to Nostr. It just handles everything for you, the data conversion. You're able to edit any products if there's any issues and discrepancies you see. And you just immediately just be able to load a product to Nostr just with a single click of a button. And yeah, this definitely needed to be built, because we've had a couple merchants like come out to me. It's like one had like 10,000 items, and they had to like list a few at a time, right? And then another one had like just simply like 10 items that they were listing, but it took them, he said, an hour to be able to list all of them, just because of all the image uploads, modifying, making sure that everything was like looking correct. And yeah, like people have really been wanting to be able to migrate over fully to Nostr, or like at least have another distribution channel there. But of course, it can be, the tools aren't there yet. And this is one that's very essential, especially for merchants that just want to at least have their products and their infrastructure on Nostr, so they can just try it out and be working with it. And then a few of the other smaller things, especially like, yeah, a few of the other smaller things that are coming out as well are Nostr Wallet Connect. So soon you'll be able to actually use the Shopstr wallet that's built in and connect it to other Nostr applications and pay out from there. So like one powerful thing would be like literally I can earn money as a merchant and then send money to someone's shitpost, or like vice versa. So it's like really cool to have just a completely native parallel infrastructure and payment ecosystem that I could actually make a living at some point and never have to touch the fiat system. Like our kids could probably be able to live in a future like that, which is really freaking awesome to see. And then working on liquid integration. So this will be really cool. We're gonna actually like have it as an option alongside the eCash wallet. So it'll be like a non-custodial version of it, and you'll be able to transact and swap within Lightning and on-chain Bitcoin. So that'll allow it to merchants to be able to receive on-chain Bitcoin, and you'll also be able to like be exposed to like stable coins and all that stuff. So like if merchants don't want the volatility or anything, they can opt for that, and then they can just cash out in Bitcoin and go on from there. The eCash as well. So primarily with eCash, what I want to be doing is actually implement like a cool escrow service with it. So you'll actually be able to, like if you want to opt into it or want something like it, most of our merchants have actually found that it's not necessary, especially since they want to build a reputation and keep it. But for those who are like, as the platform grows and as like, more and more proliferation of like potential scams and all this stuff develops, we want to be able to help mitigate that as much as possible. And eCash could be a very powerful tool, simply with like time locks and pay to pub key. So you can just like lock a payment to a pub key so only that person can claim it, and after a certain amount of time, it gets unlocked if that payment hasn't been claimed, if there was something you thought was fraudulent, and you can have it tied to like an intermediary key, and then arbitration can happen and stuff like that. So that's building out a system for that as well. And then this last one is a Vertex. So this is like a new DVM system that was built on Nostr. And this basically allows for like greater product discovery based on your social graph. So you're able to actually interact and find different products and services you want to buy from your native Nostr social graph without having to because at the moment on Shopstr, we're lucky that it hasn't been abused yet, but just the fact that you have a global feed, if some merchant or some person just comes to the site and finds like drugs or some other stuff that they don't want to see, then it's like, okay, like you need to have some way of mitigating at least the exposure to that, or at least have a way to not have to interact with any of that content. And something like Vertex, having native Web of Trust, more efficient Web of Trust, allows to like kind of hide that information and hide the content that you don't necessarily want to be exposed to. And that's basically it. That's Shopstr. And if anyone has any questions, please let me know.